Is it possible for humanity to sink so low as to inflict inhumane treatment upon innocent children? Sadly, history reveals that white people committed unspeakable atrocities against black children during the era of slavery. Just when one believes that humanity has reached its lowest point, more details emerge, shedding light on the unimaginable pain endured by black individuals. It's difficult to imagine the depths of suffering endured by black children during slavery. For those uncomfortable with facing the harsh realities of history, refrain from watching the following video. With that said, let's delve into the unspeakable horrors inflicted upon black child slaves.
The Blackhistory Archives.
Forced to eat like animals. Enslaved children, among the most vulnerable members of society, were subjected to harrowing experiences that defied all notions of human decency. One of the most egregious forms of degradation they endured was being forced to consume their meals in ways reminiscent of animals rather than human beings. This systematic dehumanization served to reinforce the brutal narrative of their enslavement, perpetuating a cycle of exploitation and abuse. Imagine the anguish of a child, robbed of their innocence and basic rights, forced to scavenge for sustenance like a stray animal. Denied access to proper nutrition, these children were often given meager scraps or leftovers that others deemed unfit for consumption. These scraps were often inadequate in quantity and nutritional value, condemning these young souls to a life of malnourishment and stunted growth. To compound their suffering, enslaved children were frequently made to eat off the ground or from troughs, further demeaning their humanity and eroding any semblance of dignity they might cling to. This degrading spectacle not only stripped away their physical dignity, but also inflicted deep emotional wounds, leaving scars that would linger long after their shackles were removed. The act of forcing enslaved children to eat like animals served a dual purpose for their oppressors. Not only did it reinforce the notion of their subhuman status, but it also served as a tool of psychological manipulation, instilling a sense of worthlessness and resignation within their young hearts and minds. By depriving them of the most basic aspects of human dignity, slave owners sought to exert absolute control over their victims, ensuring compliance through fear and degradation. Forced to engage in sexual acts. Reflecting on the atrocities of slavery, one cannot escape the harrowing reality that they were cruelly coerced into performing sexual acts by their heartless owners or overseers. This unfathomable exploitation robbed them not only of their physical autonomy, but also shattered their innocence, leaving behind wounds that cut deeper than any physical pain. The mere thought of these young souls being thrust into a nightmarish existence, where their bodies were treated as mere commodities to satisfy the depraved desires of their oppressors, fills people with a profound sense of sorrow and anger. How could humanity descend to such depths of cruelty, where the most sacred boundaries of dignity and decency were callously violated? Beyond the physical violation lies a landscape of emotional and psychological devastation, where the scars of trauma run deep and may never fully heal. The betrayal of trust, as those entrusted with their care became their tormentors, inflicted wounds that transcended the confines of their physical bodies, permeating their very souls with a haunting sense of shame and despair. These survivors, burdened with the weight of unspeakable trauma, are forced to navigate a world that often fails to comprehend the depth of their suffering. The wounds of their past continue to shape their present reality, manifesting in crippling anxiety, shattered self-esteem, and an enduring sense of isolation. Used as bait or targets for cruel entertainment, now they encountered the chilling narratives of enslaved children reduced to mere objects of amusement in the twisted games orchestrated by their owners or overseers. These young souls, already shackled by the chains of enslavement, faced a new form of terror as they were thrust into roles meant to entertain the perverse desires of those in power. Here's a reminder to please support us so we can make more videos for you by subscribing to our channel and liking the videos. We want to build a strong community, and we need your support. Let's continue now. Picture the profound sense of betrayal and dread gripping these tender hearts as they were forced into the difficult position of bait, their very lives hanging in precarious balance while awaiting the savage onslaught of dogs or other instruments of cruelty. Their suffering, intended to elicit amusement from their oppressors, echoes with the piercing cries of innocence violated. The psychological wounds inflicted by such barbarity are profound and enduring. To be reduced to disposable objects of entertainment, stripped of all dignity and humanity, leaves scars that run deeper than any physical injury. Moreover, the trauma endured in these harrowing experiences lingers long after the immediate threat has passed, shaping the survivor's perceptions and sense of self in ways that defy comprehension for those untouched by such horrors. Confronting the grim reality of enslaved children used as bait or targets for cruel entertainment forces us to confront humanity's darkest impulses and the lasting legacy of suffering it leaves in its wake. It serves as a poignant reminder of the imperative to dismantle systems of oppression and ensure that the injustices, branded or marked to denote ownership, in the cruel machinery of slavery, the practice of branding or marking enslaved children with searing irons stood as a grim testament to their status as mere property owned and controlled by others. This barbaric ritual inflicted not only physical agony, but also served as a chilling symbol of their dehumanization, reinforcing the insidious notion that their lives were subject to the whims of their masters. Imagine the searing pain and anguish endured by these young souls as the heated iron seared their flesh, leaving behind permanent scars that bore witness to their subjugation. Each mark served as a stark reminder of their powerlessness, branding their very humanity in the eyes of their oppressors. Again, the psychological impact of such branding cannot be overstated. It not only inflicted immediate trauma, but also perpetuated a cycle of psychological torment, instilling a profound sense of worthlessness and eroding any semblance of self-worth. Moreover, the branded marks became a visible manifestation of the oppressive system that sought to strip away their dignity and autonomy, serving as a constant reminder of their status as chattel to be bought, sold, and discarded at will. Forced to witness or participate in violence, enslaved children were tragically thrust into the horrifying spectacle of violence, often forced to bear witness to or even participate in acts of brutality inflicted upon their fellow captives. Whether subjected to beatings, lynchings, or other forms of punishment, they were immersed in a culture of cruelty from a tender age, where violence became a normalized aspect of their existence. We can't even imagine the profound psychological impact of such experiences on these young souls, forced to confront the darkest aspects of humanity with little understanding or recourse. The trauma inflicted by witnessing or participating in violence left indelible scars, shaping their perception of themselves and the world around them in ways that defy comprehension. Moreover, the normalization of violence within the institution of slavery served to perpetuate a cycle of cruelty, where the dehumanization of one individual became a prelude to the suffering of many. By compelling enslaved children to witness or participate in acts of violence, slave owners sought to assert their dominance and instill fear, further cementing their control over their captive population. Subjected to psychological manipulation and control, enslaved children were cruelly subjected to many psychological tactics wielded by their oppressors to maintain control. Through a sinister combination of threats, intimidation, and gaslighting, their fragile sense of self-worth and agency was systematically eroded, perpetuating their subjugation and reinforcing the power dynamics of their captivity. From a young age, these vulnerable souls were made to question their worth and autonomy, their minds entangled in a web of fear and uncertainty spun by those who sought to dominate them. It left scars that ran far deeper than any physical injury, shaping the very core of their being and distorting their perception of reality. Under the constant threat of punishment and retribution, they learned to internalize their oppression, their spirits gradually worn down by the relentless pressure to comply with their oppressors' demands. Moreover, the normalization of psychological manipulation within the institution of slavery served to perpetuate a cycle of control, where the minds of the enslaved became battlegrounds for their masters' dominance. By systematically undermining their sense of self-worth and agency, slave owners sought to maintain their grip on power, ensuring that rebellion and resistance remained a distant dream for those held in chains. Exposure to disease and illness. Enslaved children endured not only the physical toil and psychological torment of slavery, but also faced the grim reality of widespread disease and illness. Locked in cramped and unsanitary living conditions, often deprived of proper health care, They were constantly at the mercy of epidemics and endemic diseases that swept through slave communities with deadly force. Their lives were constantly struggling against the invisible threats lurking in their environment. Imagine the fear that gripped their hearts as they watched their peers succumb to sickness, knowing that they too could be next. From common ailments like dysentery and respiratory infections to more deadly diseases like smallpox and malaria, every day was a battle for survival against forces they could neither see nor control. Living under the shadow of constant sickness took a heavy toll on their mental well-being, instilling a sense of dread and hopelessness that weighed heavily on their young minds. It robbed them of the carefree innocence of childhood, replacing it with a grim awareness of their mortality. Moreover, the lack of access to proper medical care meant that even minor illnesses could quickly spiral into life-threatening conditions. With no one to turn to for help, they suffered in silence, their bodies ravaged by sickness while their spirits were crushed under the weight of their suffering. But this is not it. It's just a few things the innocent souls had to go through. Have you ever studied this in school? Why is the white man still hiding this from you? Let us know in the comments section. These people who can't stop themselves from talking about human rights, why can't they talk about the violence they committed? Would you like us to make more videos? If yes, please support us by subscribing to the Black History Archives and clicking the bell icon. You can check out more videos on our channel too.